Now, if you're at all familiar with traditional camping, at all, you have any amount of time really looking into historical camping within the past 30, 40, 50 years, then you have seen, you've heard of, you are lightly aware of the Yucca backpack. And the fact there is even the pine tree patrol system that used the Yucca backpack. So there was like a whole system developed by the Boy Scouts to use the Yucca packs in its various different sizes and how to pack them, how to separate gear, things like that. If you're interested in that, then you should check out the Camp Crafters Guild because it's in the library. And it is absolutely fascinating how detailed it got. Very kind of militaristic in how organized it was. But back in the golden days of scouting, youth organizations, we had so many kids, such large groups having a system like that. Man, I could only imagine how cool that would have been to been part of a group like that. But maybe I'm over glorifying it. There's a couple makers today that are reproducing the Yucca backpack with some modern updates. Or you can get very retro if you want to use a Yucca style backpack, but maybe you're not so much a kid size anymore, like myself. Now, I'm going to take a segue here. I made a Trapper Nelson pack frame that specifically uses the Yucca because I'm a big dude. I'm not a 5-foot skinny kid anymore, so these straps just don't fit my frame. But I love the simplicity of it. I love what you can do with it. And you may think like it's just a bag, right? And it is. But if you like organizing your stuff using poke sacks or pouches or dry bags, then you know, this style of pack is really all you need. All you need. It's very versatile, but it's also simplistic. Now, I did a video on the 574. The 574 was the largest model of Yucca backpack that the Boy Scouts sold. You can get them on eBay. They're very common. They're a dime a dozen. So it's not like you have to go very far. Like I said, just about every scout had them. But what I'm talking to you today is not so much about the Yucca backpack in general, but I'm going to talk to you about how it all originated. Yes, my friends, now if you are part of my channel and you might have been a past scout or you're a scouting collector, maybe you just like scouting history, or maybe you just like history in general, I really lucked out. I stumbled upon the original design of the Yucca backpack. So we're talking late 1920s, very early 1930s, because a lot of the features of this pack, which to most people probably isn't a big deal, but to us who really like the details and the collectors, those details really matter. But the details of this switch drastically to this model here. This is the common one. If we take a look at this one, like I said, I already did a video of it, side by side they look pretty much the same. They got 6 rings on the side, right? They got a top rectangle flap, it's not bellowed or anything, and you got 2 straps to close it up. Now when we open this one up, we see 2 flaps. Now these flaps help tighten and cinch everything together along with the D-rings, and you can also use the D-rings to attach things too. I got a lot of bubble wrap in there just to make it lightweight, also hold its shape. But these eyelets, these grommets, I guess that's actually incorrect, so these grommets, you can tie these together and cinch it. And depending on which model of the Yucca that you got, what age, there's a D-ring up here, so you can use this to tie it all together. You don't have to worry about losing your string. All right? But another key feature of the Yucca backpack is one side is always permanently strapped. Okay, it's your left side. It's permanently strapped. And then your right side, you have some type of clip mechanism that you can clip it on and off rather easily. That makes putting it on and off, especially after a long day's hike, really simple. So that's a pretty great feature. So if we take this and we take a step back and go to its father, right? This version here, oh man, we're talking again, Great Depression, right? So we can jump to some conclusions and see why things may have been done the way they were done in the early 1930s versus the late 1930s and into the 1940s and 50s. This style was sold into the 1960s. So 30 years is a long time for a piece of equipment to be pretty much synonymous with anything, right? Like this is the standard pack. So again, we have, let's talk about the straps. One side, the left side here, was permanently strapped. Well, it's D-ring. It's old. It got taken out. And we notice that it has just a standard thumb clip. Just a standard thumb clip here to connect down here. Versus, actually a little bit nicer, more militaristic. You know, this is probably late 1930s, maybe early 1940s pack. This has more of like a military clip, a hook system, comparatively. There is also no designation up here for Yucca. There's no designation or stamping up here for Boy Scouts of America. And there's no lines for your name, address, or troop, which for jamborees and camporees and summer camp, especially when everybody's got the same pack, that's actually a pretty nice feature. But nothing. This is just a plain leather reinforcement piece. So that tells you how old this thing is. And if we take a look at the straps themselves, there is a slight size difference. This one is just a hair smaller. We're talking about pretty much a quarter of an inch or maybe a little bit less than a quarter of an inch width difference. The coloration versus yellow to green is another great way of identifying the age of your Boy Scout equipment. The more yellow it is, the older it is. The more green it is, we're talking like 1940s, 1950s. Again, tying back to that military side of things. All right, now, you could probably easily identify a big difference with the flap. Here, we have just a simple tension system. There's no leather buckle, no brass buckles, just a tension system. It's very common, just a tie that kind of like you're cinching up a horse saddle or something like that. You go through both, pop it over, go through the top, feed it through, and there you go. That's it. Now, I actually kind of like this a little bit better because if you're out in the field and you're trying to make a repair, it's honestly easier to make a repair to that versus the leather buckle system. Now, the leather buckle system will last a lot longer. It's a lot more durable. Here, we see some reinforced rivets. Over here, there's no reinforcements. It's actually pretty basic. It's not rather long. It's right here on the edge, so this is a very weak point. But I like the idea if this was farther back and maybe reinforced, that this would be a better and easier way to repair something. Leather, if you don't take care of it, can dry rot and it can be kind of damaged. Same thing with cloth, but as long as you keep your cloth clean and everything, for the most part, you're pretty good to go. So they have pros and cons both ways. Either way, you have a square flap, not bellow. We have a zinc eyelet, not a grommet. This is actually an eyelet. There is a difference between how grommets and eyelets are placed. Eyelets are weaker than grommets. So if you had to choose between the two, choose a grommet versus an eyelet. There's my little tidbit of help for you for picking out hardware. What I found kind of interesting about this is the scout who owned this used the string. This looks like shoestring. Maybe it came with the pack. These are the exact same shoestrings as those used on the breeches that were commonly used as pants for the Boy Scouts of America. Even adults wore the breeches. And as you know from my channel, I love the breeches. I wear them when I go outdoors. They're the most comfortable, most versatile pair of outdoor clothing I've ever owned. But these D-rings are a lot smaller than the later D-rings. The bag, volume-wise, is the exact same. But the measurements are different slightly. For example, this bag, the older one, is actually deeper and taller than the newer one. This one is wider, less deep, and shallower. But inch for inch, they're actually the exact same volume. And I thought that was just an interesting little detail that most people probably wouldn't even care about or even really give attention to. But I thought that was pretty cool. If we take a look at the reinforcement here, this isn't leather. This is a cloth. Not even really much of a heavy-duty canvas. This is just a cloth that is covering the leather. So it is leather reinforced. You have leather, you have canvas, you have leather, and then you have the canvas covering it. So that's an extra step that I was surprised to find. When we take a look at the older one here, what we see is the canvas. What we see here is the leather on the outside, the canvas. There is no extra leather on the inside, but it is covered with a piece of canvas. And then we see the rivets here. This one is not riveted whatsoever. It is entirely sewn. What we see also missing is the D-ring up here, so that when we tie the zinc eyelets, not grommets, that the string doesn't get lost. I thought, you know, that kind of sucks. So that was a nice addition to the newer pack that the older pack didn't have. But functionally, it's all exactly the same. Now, what's the big deal with the D-rings on the side of it? First of all, if you pack this thing completely full, right, and you need maybe a bedroll or something like that, you could use a horseshoe formation, which is very common in the early 1900s, the early 20th century, to take your bedding, your bedroll, put it on top in a horseshoe, and then you would lash it to the sides. Or if you're not using the entire pack, you want to cinch it down so it's close to your body, you can do that, which I think is very nice. Also, what I like to do, tends to happen, especially since I'm using the Trapper Nelson frame, I will have this thing full, and I will usually strap something to the sides. I will probably put my water bottle on the side, I may put my hatchet on the side, or maybe even my very early 1930s Vaughn Scout camping shovel. This is such a cool little thing. I even got a video on this one. Check it out, because it's not a very common piece of scouting equipment. So there you go. That is the Yucca 574. So I've shown you two versions, the contemporary version, which is the most common. Now there's a couple differences between, you know, even the versions that were fairly new from the 1940s to the 1960s. A couple little tweaks here and there, but for the most part they're all the same. But this one here, this first version, the father of the Yucca 574, I thought you guys would find it interesting to see all the little tweaks and details that vary from this version to the later. And we owe a lot of appreciation, really, to these style packs, because until the Yucca came along, this style of pack, not many of them really had these side D-rings to cinch it down, to tie things to the side of it. You know, this was actually a pretty big advancement as far as camp gear goes. And I think we all need to take a moment and appreciate how things have progressed. At this point, I know you like traditional camping gear, because if you've waited this long in the video, you like this stuff. If that's the case, then you really should jump on the Camp Crafters Guild. You can join for free for 5 days, but on it has a resource library, including a ton of different catalogs, historical catalogs, so you can see all the different styles of packs that there were. You can even start your own collecting journey, and you give you a leg up with information, along with lots of other books and resources from great campcraft writers. And of course, it's a community, so you got the benefit of learning and growing and sharing with like-minded people. We really hope to see you around our campfire. www.honorableoutfitters.com/join the guild. Now, if you'd like to see the playlist over all the videos I've done over the packs that I have currently, I've got more, so they'll be coming, then you want to check out the playlist here, and you'll really enjoy it. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Give a kiss and hug to your loved ones, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.